Chilling secrets uncovered, 10 terrifying rainy night tales that will haunt your dreams forever. The rain fell in an unyielding torrent, a relentless drumming that filled the night with a sense of dread. Sarah, a single mother working late shifts at the convenience store in the sleepy suburb of Willow Creek, felt the tension in the air squeeze her gut tighter with every rumble of thunder that rolled in. Crouching behind the counter, she could almost feel the storm itself creep up on her, as though it held a terrible secret. Just hours earlier, she had overheard whispered talk about Mr. Hargrove, their elderly neighbor who had mysteriously vanished last week. The chilling notion that something insidious lingered nearby sent shivers down her spine. As the clock edged towards midnight, Sarah stole glances toward the glass doors. Each flash of lightning momentarily illuminated the aisles, casting elongated shadows that danced as if possessed. Alone in the store, her heart raced. Home, her 2 children, Emily and Jake, slept soundly, unaware of the horrors brewing outside. With every crack of thunder, she instinctively checked her phone. Silence greeted her. No texts, no updates. It felt wrong. Silent fears circled her mind, whispering that Mr. Hargrove's absence wasn't just a vanish into thin air but something far more sinister. The minutes dragged, stretching into eternity, and the strange occurrences began. Lights flickered, casting shadows that morphed and twisted. Was that a voice she heard just beyond the door? An eerie sound glided through the relentless rain, growing louder every second, clawing at her nerves. Then it came, the first knock, not just any knock. It was a sickening scratching, insistent and tight, striking a raw nerve, igniting her instinct to run. She glanced at her phone again. 911, the service's hotline not connecting, nothing but static dial tone. Panic gripped her, she was utterly isolated. The tales of the woods twisted in her memory like a dark film, real stories of parents who went missing, leaving only echoes of screaming children behind. Vengeful spirits filled the townsfolk's whispers, warning against neglect. Every horror whispered raised the hairs on her neck. Sweat trickled down her back. Gripping her breath, she snatched up the baby monitor, praying for the gentle sounds of her kids. Instead, a warped voice filled her ear, twisted and guttural, growling her name from deep within her home. Panic twisted tighter around her heart. She couldn't hide from whatever dark force was tethered to her life. She envisioned losing Emily and Jake as she bolted back to the flickering light of the store, edging closer to torment or salvation. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just then, a more feverish knock reverberated through the glass door, followed by the creak of the old frame. Fear slammed into her chest, an unrelenting force. The storm pressed against her mind, as if urging her to guard her children by any means necessary. She never imagined it would leave her here, caught between the fabric of her sanity and the impending chaos. The air thickened, heavy with both the storm's rain and the mysteries that her heart could not fathom. Whoever was out there, held pieces of Mr. Hargrove's fate. And as she drew a breath to confront the darkness at her door, she knew one truth: something was coming to claim its due, and she would have to face whatever terrible choice awaited her threshold. The knock came again, more urgent this time. Sarah's skin prickled. It was as if the darkness pressed in around her, jagged and alive. She clutched the counter, a lifeline, fighting the urge to flee. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to escape, but her children were at home. Were they safe? The thought twisted in her gut like a blade. "Hold it together, Sarah," she muttered under her breath, her heart racing with every pulse. She flicked the switch on the overhead lights, and they flickered before settling into a dim glow. Shadows crawled across the floor, elongating with the next flash of lightning. Another knock. The sound was more of a scraping this time, like fingernails against the wood. She narrowed her focus on the door, instinctively edging toward the far side of the counter to gain a better view. A figure loomed outside, obscured by dripping rain. Her breath caught in her throat. Was that Mr. Hargrove? His silhouette seemed familiar, yet distorted and grotesque. Shadows danced around him, as if he were surrounded by a halo of darkness that warped reality. Mr. Hargrove? She called, her voice trembling. The figure didn't move, didn't respond. Just stood there, swaying slightly, dripping water onto the floor. Fear pulsed in her veins. She had to know. She had to see. Clenching her fists, she took a hesitant step forward. Cold droplets splattered against her face as she reached for the door, ready to fling it wide open. Suddenly, her phone lit up with a message. Without taking her eyes off the figure, she swiped the screen. It was from Emily. Mom. Where are you? Panic surged through her. I'm fine. She texted back, though her heart knew that wasn't true. Another clap of thunder rolled through the store, shaking the shelves. The figure outside jerked in response, tilting its head unnaturally, as if it could hear her thoughts. Sarah. The voice was low, distorted, not the soft, warm tone she once knew. Let me in. Her hands trembled on the door handle. No, this wasn't right. This couldn't be him. She wanted to scream, to pull back, but her body seemed frozen in place, like prey caught in a predator's gaze. Please don't leave us. Another chill ran down her spine at the voice. It seemed to blend the pleas of her children with the rasp of Mr. Hargrove, weaving an intoxicating mixture of fear and familiarity. Just as she prepared to turn away, the old man's form lurched, and a pale hand shot forward, pressing against the glass with a force that rattled the entire door. The panic that had been coiling tighter within her exploded. She stumbled back, her back hitting the wall behind her. Her heart thundered like the storm, as the voice deepened, reverberating in her skull. Let me in. I have to show you. Out of the corner of her eye, she glimpsed the baby monitor flickering again. There it was, growing louder. Crying. No, laughter. It was her children, echoing their warm giggles in that empty store. But the laughter twisted into something sinister. Screams, desperate and pained, filling the empty spaces within her heart. Without thinking, she lunged for the door. As her fingers brushed the cold metal handle, another knock stopped her, grabbing her attention like a vice. The voice had shifted yet again. Now it was one she didn't recognize. Save us, Sarah. Panic exploded again within her. She whipped around, searching for the source of that voice, her instincts whispering that danger crept closer. Just then, the lights flickered one last time before plunging the store into darkness. A deafening clap of thunder roared, and as she stood there, paralyzed, the realization struck her hard. The storm was only the beginning. There were things waiting for her outside, inside, everywhere. What was she meant to save? And at what cost? A confrontation loomed on the horizon, more terrifying than she could have ever imagined. Would she let the shadows in, or would she fight to keep her family safe? And then she heard the drop of soft footsteps, muffled against the rain-slick floor behind her. The air thickened, weighed down by dread. Sarah's heart raced as she whipped around to face the sound, her breath hitching in her throat. Nothing, just the echo of her own fear bouncing off the walls of the dark, empty store. Hello. She called out, her voice sounding small and fragile, swallowed by the enveloping silence. No reply. Only the patter of rain against the roof, creating a sinister rhythm, as though something else was lurking just out of sight, waiting to pounce. Clenching her fists, she glanced back at the door, realizing she had to make a decision. Should she trust the whispers? The urgent pleas interwoven with dark laughter. Her instincts told her to run, to save her children, but she felt anchored by something deep within, an unseen tether that bound her to the shadows. Another sound made her freeze. A soft scratching noise, like nails on linoleum. It was coming closer. Mom. The voice echoed from the baby monitor, fading in and out, as if a static storm were battling to break through. It sent icy fingers up her spine. "Emily!" she croaked, desperation thrumming in her chest. Her pulse thundered in her ears as she approached the monitor, hoping against hope that somehow, this wasn't just a trick, that her daughter was truly safe. But the monitor flickered, the screen displaying nothing but static, distorting the laughter into a cacophony of despair. Suddenly, the footsteps returned, more pronounced this time, edging closer. "Save us. Please." Sarah's breath caught again. She took a step back, searching the store, every corner shrouded in darkness. Her eyes darted, catching glimpses of familiar shapes: a shelf, a mop bucket, the mundane objects now transformed into potential harbingers of doom. Then she saw it, a shadow, a flicker of movement in the corner of her eye. A figure darting just beyond the reach of light. Was it coming for her? Fear paralyzed her, but instinct kicked in. She had to confront whatever nightmare was unfolding. She had to find her children. "Emily! Jake!" she shouted, her voice cracking. The emptiness wrapped around her, a suffocating blanket. The laughter morphed again into screams, high-pitched and raw, and Sarah bolted towards the back of the store where the kids' play area was. "Mom!" The call came again, this time solid, full of urgency. The door to the play area stood ajar, flickering light casting shadows like clawed hands reaching for her. "Please come out," she pleaded as she stepped inside. The bright colors of the toys seemed twisted and sinister in the light. The laughter faded, swallowed by the oppressive atmosphere. She had to find them. "Mommy!" a tiny voice whispered through the darkness. Sarah's heart leaped. "Where are you?" In that moment, the temperature dropped, the air grew heavy. "Help us, Mommy!" the voice cracked, fading into a haunting echo. Then silence. A terrible, suffocating silence that challenged the storm outside. Panic bubbled back up inside Sarah. What if she was too late? Fear pushed her body forward, instincts dragging her deeper into the playroom. Every part of her warned to turn back, yet an insatiable need to protect her children drove her. She flipped the light switch, praying for a bright sanctuary, but the bulbs flickered before dying completely. The darkness thickened around her, smothering, threatening to steal away every ounce of courage. As her eyes adjusted, she could make out forms, movement. The shadows shifted again, forming into figures, distorted and grotesque, echoing the cries of her children, of Mr. Hargrove. "Let us out, save us!" The weight of dread crashed around her, shots of icy terror freezing her in place. What had she let in? Then she saw them, small hands stretched through the darkness, reaching toward her. "Mom!" But it was different. Deeper. Twisted. "Mommy! Please come here." And just like that, she knew the figures weren't her children. The horrifying realization jolted her body into action, and she turned to run just as something cold wrapped around her ankle, pulling her down. "Stay!" the whispers hissed, demanding, relentless. The shadows loomed closer, their forms shifting into familiar shapes with twisted smiles. Fear gripped her heart as she fought against the pulling darkness, the whispers now drowning in the sound of raging thunder. "You wanted to save them." The flickering light of the monitor caught her eye, the screen flashed once more. She glanced back, her pulse racing. "Mommy!" They were right behind her. But where? In which direction was safety? As the room darkened, the storm outside surged. She had to make a choice: would she save herself or surrender to the whispers? The last memory she held of her children echoed in her mind as she braced herself for the inevitable. Then, the terrible silence shattered again. "Mom!" The plea, a new urgency, sent chills through her. In the haunting stillness, a new terror unfolded, leaving Sarah on the edge of desperation. What would she sacrifice to uncover the truth? The whispering shadows tightened around Sarah as she thrashed on the ground, struggling against the icy grip clamping her ankle. The air was thick with a stench of decay, as if the very darkness held secrets too vile to speak. "Mommy! Run!" The sound of her children's voices shattered through her haze of terror. But they were distant, echoing from the abyss, pulling on her heartstrings like sinister threads woven into the fabric of fear. The shadows shifted, swirling to form grotesque faces that leered at her, their laughter echoing like nails on a chalkboard. Her breath came in short, frantic gasps, and panic swelled within her. She couldn't let them take her. Not now. Not when she was so close to finding her children. Let go. She screamed, kicking and clawing at the darkness. The cold slithered up her leg, but with each pulse of dread, she visualized her children's faces, Emily's bright laughter and Jake's comforting smile. The light from the monitor flickered back into her memory, a beacon of hope amidst the encroaching shadows. With a surge of determination, Sarah lunged forward, her hand catching onto the cool, hard edge of a toy box. It tipped over, scattering rubber blocks and stuffed animals onto the floor, creating a chaotic barrier between her and the lurking figures. "Please!" she cried, scrambling up with newfound resolve, her breath stolen by the sheer weight of dread. The shadows hesitated, drawn back by her desperate energy. Frantically, she peered around the play area, scanning for the source of her children's cries. The last flickers of light illuminated a back door marked with peeling paint and crawling vines, and for a split second, hope ignited within her. "Mommy, help us!" The voices came again, layered now, desperate and intertwined, pulling her heart apart. She bolted toward the door, but cold laughter chased behind. It taunted her, edged with malice, wrapping around her like a noose. "Join us, Sarah," it beckoned, a promise laced with agony. "You can save them," she hesitated, dread clawing at her gut. Remembering Mr. Hargrove's warnings, she knew the whispers were deceivers, offering salvation forged in darkness. "Mommy!" The urgency in their cries sharpened Sarah's focus. They needed her. She couldn't fail them again. With a sudden burst of fiery resolve, she threw open the door. It creaked like the moan of death, revealing a dim corridor lined with mirrors that flickered in and out of existence. "Mom!" The echoes of the children's pleas became clearer, pushing her forward. "Stay away from her!" An unfamiliar voice shouted from the depths of the hallway, heavy with authority but layered with fear. The shadows recoiled, hissing like circuitous serpents. Sarah stepped into the corridor, each step lighting a pathway ahead as if the shadows feared the light she radiated within. "Who are you?" she called out, realizing the voice had been filled with protection, yet wrapped in a shroud of confusion. "Run, Sarah! Don't look back!" But before she could comprehend, the door slammed shut behind her, the sound reverberating through the air like thunder. She stumbled forward, the flickering light at the end of the corridor beckoning her like a firefly in the night. The mirrors danced, distorting her reflection. She caught a glimpse, a fractured figure, someone who looked like her but twisted with despair. Sarah screamed, and the reflection screamed back, a cacophony of terror, pulling her apart at the seams. Then, a sharp crack sliced through her vision, and the mirrors shattered, shards scattering everywhere. "Mommy!" came the echo again, filled with chilling urgency. But in that moment, she realized the reflections weren't just hers. They were echoes of those who had come before, souls caught between realms. What had she unleashed? As the shards fell, time froze, but she had no time to think. The weight of shadows flickered behind her, growing larger, monstrous, and hungry for her despair. There was no turning back. She had to choose between the mirage of safety or plunging deeper into the nightmare of the unknown. "Mommy!" The cry pierced through the fog, igniting a fierce determination within her. She was a mother. She would always fight. But the question remained: what awaited her at the end of this corridor? As she dashed forward, grasping onto hope, the darkness whispered a chilling truth. "You can't save them, you're all that remains." What would she find? And would it be her salvation or her undoing? With each pounding step, Sarah raced through the corridor, the flickering light stretching out like desperate hands trying to catch hold of her. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears, thundering like the sound of a war drum. The shadow's laughter crescendoed behind her, twisting the air with a rancid stench that clung to her throat, choking her resolve. "Mommy! Please!" She could see them now, almost in reach, their faces flickering through the haze of shadow and light. Emily and Jake's small forms stood before her, arms outstretched, surrounded by a pulsing darkness that shifted and writhed like a living creature. "No. Hold on. I'm coming." The words fell from her lips like a prayer, filled with a mix of desperation and determination. Just as she took another step forward, a shudder traveled through the floor, as if the very structure of the corridor was responding to her presence. Cracks spiderwebbed across the walls, pulsating with energy, and the shadows throbbed like a heartbeat, threatening to swallow the light. "Mommy, it hurts." Jake's voice was layered with screams, a chilling blend that sent icy fingers of dread crawling down her spine. Sarah's breath hitched. She had to push through. The children needed her. But as she approached, the shadows to her right slashed out like claws, nearly catching her skirt. She stumbled back, terror tightening its grip around her heart. "Stay away!" she screeched, her voice raw, as she edged around the seething darkness. "Mom! We can't hold them back!" Emily cried, though her tiny features slipped in and out of view. The sound of shattering glass still echoed in her ears, lingering like lingering whispers of lost souls. Each fragmented reflection was a reminder of failures, and yet there was something faintly trying to reach her. "Mommy!" The shadows seemed to sway, growing impatient, hungrily incensed by her delay. They whispered secrets, murmurs that clawed at her sanity, each syllable sharpening her fear. "To save them, you must embrace the shadows and oh!" Sarah yelled, shaking her head fiercely. "I won't let you lead me astray." With one last surge of determination, she focused on Emily and Jake. Their silhouettes flickered, but with every heartbeat, they remained. She willed herself forward, breaking through the suffocating fog, ignoring the cacophony of sinister laughter that buzzed like angry bees in her mind. Just beyond, she saw something, a doorway burgeoning with light. It twinkled like a star fallen from the firmament, pulsating with energy as if beckoning her like a lifeline. Fear grappled with hope, it felt like acceptance wrapped in gilded chains. But only if they could reach that door. "Get ready," she called, blinking through tears. "On my count." The shadows coiled closer, stretching out in greedy tendrils, brushing against her skin. She could almost feel their cold breath whispering promises of despair. 3, 2, 1, go. They surged ahead, pounding toward the door, adrenaline igniting her legs as shadows clawed at her heels. Just as they reached the doorway, the shadows wrapped around her, tugging, pulling, trying to claim her as their own. "Mommy!" Their cries drove a knife through her chest. With a burst of strength, she reached through the glowing threshold, arms extended, feeling the cool light wrap around her like a soft embrace. But right as they surged into the doorway, a sharp darkness shot forward and grabbed her wrist, yanking her back into the corridor filled with despair. "Save yourself or lose them forever," a cold voice hissed, wrapping around her heart. The faces of her children twisted in the shadows, their eyes wide with fear, and in that moment, Sarah realized the gamble she was about to take. Could she break the chains of despair? Or would she plunge headfirst into the shadows, damned to join them forever? The doorway flickered behind them, fading out of existence, leaving only a sickening void. What price would she pay for the hope of salvation? Sarah took a shuddering breath, clutching her children's hands as the walls closed in. "Let go," whispered the shadows, melding into a haunting chorus. As they clawed for her soul, Sarah knew that whatever lay ahead could break her spirit or ignite it. She braced herself for a choice, confronting the terrifying unknown. What awaited her at the end of this cursed passage? Would she find her children, or would the darkness finally claim her? The shadows writhed as if seeking a way to escape their own bounds, hungry for souls they couldn't touch fully. Sarah felt their cold fingers stroke her leg, an eerie caress that sent shivers spiraling down her spine. She clenched her children's hands tighter, feeling their smallness, the pulse of their fear like a dual heartbeat in her palm. "Mommy, we're scared," Jake whimpered, his voice trembling. The shadows began to swirl more ferociously, intertwining like a tempest around them. Each movement seemed to echo disapproval, anger, the shadows whispering more frantic commands. "Don't listen to them." Sarah gasped, vision narrowing. She had to think. The door behind her was almost gone, she could see it pulsating feebly, hope lighting its edges. A burning determination sparked within her despite the oppressive dread urging her to turn back. She couldn't let go. "Not now. Follow my voice," she urged, steadying her own quaking resolve. Together, she pulled them forward, weaving through the encroaching darkness, ready to confront whatever horrors awaited them, but with every step, the ground beneath her twisted, almost alive, each footfall a painful reminder of how fragile their escape was. The laughter from the shadows grew louder, mocking, gnawing at the edge of her sanity. "You think you can save them? You can't even save yourself, Mom," called Emily, her voice a sharp edge in the cacophony. "I want to go home. Home." The thought ignited a fierce longing in Sarah. The memories of warmth, laughter, and safety flickered in her mind like the fading lights around them. "I'm here," she shouted, desperation coating her voice. "We're going home." In that moment, she drew forth every ounce of maternal strength, pouring it into her next words. "You want to take us. We're stronger than you." The shadows recoiled as if struck, their buoyant forms hesitating. Sarah seized that instant to push forward, dragging her children through the darkness. She felt their resolve flicker, wavering as the whispers returned, seductive and dark. "Join us, you can have power, freedom, no." She screamed, an animalistic cry echoing back against the walls. "They're not yours." A pulse of pure, raw energy ignited within her, and she could see it reverberate through the darkness, each heartbeat resonating with the flickering light behind her. "Mommy!" Emily's voice broke her focus, and Sarah turned just in time to see her daughter's face contorted in fear, the shadows stretching toward her. She could feel it, the pull of despair trying to latch onto her children and drag them into the abyss. "Stay close," she shouted as she summoned every instinct to shield them. The corridor twisted again, and with a roar, the shadows lunged. In that instant, time slowed. The darkness surged, reaching with elongated fingers to claim them. Her heart raced painfully, but an image flashed in her mind, those giggles, the sound of her children's laughter echoing in a sunlit room, the warmth of their intertwined fingers. "Hold on to me," she yelled, their hands tightening around hers. Then, as if a dam had burst, she felt light flare within her, cutting through the suffocating darkness. Suddenly, she was surrounded by pulsing orbs of color, illuminating the grim corridor, replacing their surroundings with vibrant hues of azure and gold. The shadows hissed, recoiling in fear. "Now!" she urged her children, "Run!" They bolted, rushing through the light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Sarah looked back. The shadows writhed, losing their form as they strained against the onslaught of brightness. Her heart soared, would they finally break free? But as they passed deeper into the radiant glow, a chilling realization gripped her. The doorway that had once brought her hope now flickered ominously again, fading into the inky void behind them, as if closing forever. "Mommy!" Jake shrieked, the shadows still clawing at their heels, relentless and hungry. Sarah's breath caught. What if this was a trick? Were they leaping into a promise that would shatter like glass? She felt uncertainty crash against her heart like a tidal wave. Just as they burst through into the new realm, a final whisper echoed in her mind, a cold promise that sent terror spiraling through her gut. "You can't escape, not now, not ever." What lay ahead was a mystery veiled in light, a facade hiding deeper horrors unknown. Was this salvation or a deeper trap? As they stepped into the unknown, they left the darkness at their backs, but Sarah's heart was heavy with unspoken dread. The true terror was just beginning. What would they find in this new place? The vibrant hues began to dim as soon as they stepped forward. Shadows bled into the light, twisting into grotesque shapes that inked themselves against the walls. Fear squeezed Sarah's heart like a vice. She felt the flickering warmth of hope evaporate around her, a cruel illusion that dimmed under the weight of reality. "Stay together!" she shouted, her voice cracking, urgency pulling her taut as a bowstring. In their new realm, the once colored light now shimmered like glass, beautiful but brittle and fragile, as if it would shatter with a single breath. What if the light was a lie? The landscape morphed into a twisted version of their world. Familiar streetlights flickered in the distance, casting a sickly glow over unkempt yards and crumbling sidewalks. The wind whispered through the trees with a voice that echoed the very shadows they had just escaped. "Look, Mommy!" Jake pointed. A hulking figure stood under a streetlight, its features obscured by the inky shadows that dripped like oil around its form. The white of its eyes glinted, unblinking, and Sarah's blood turned to ice as she realized it seemed to be watching them. "Go!" Sarah yanked her children forward, but the streets felt alive, every step echoing with a rumble beneath her feet, as though the ground itself resented their presence. The figure turned, arms outstretched, beckoning them. "Freedom," it rasped, voice oozing like thick syrup. "You are home now." Welcome. Emily started to tremble. "Mommy!" she cried, "I don't like it here." "Keep moving." Sarah could hardly recognize her own voice, grating against her throat. The air was thick, hanging heavy with dread, and the shadows danced at the edge of her vision, circling like vultures waiting for their chance. As they dashed forward, the warm light dwindled with every step, revealing discarded things that shone in the night: a child's toy, a broken bicycle, and a doll missing an eye. Each object whispered stories of vanished children, their laughter absorbed by the suffocating dark. Suddenly, a low, rumbling laughter filled the air, echoing round them with a malicious glee. "You think you can escape?" it rolled out like thunder. "You are already trapped here with us. Forever." "No, no!" Sarah screamed, tangible panic gripping her. She turned to her children, and the sight of their faces sent a fresh wave of horror crashing over her. Their eyes were glazed, reflecting the shadow's allure, as if they were already slipping into the darkness. "Don't listen!" she shouted, shaking them, pulling them away from the dark embrace of the figure. It sneered, its face twisting into a semblance of a smile. "No one should smile like that. We can give you what you want," it called, its voice wrapping around her like a snare. "All the joy, all the laughter, just stay with us." But below that sickening offer, Sarah felt the edges of a deeper fear rising. The memories of warmth, the love woven into the morning spent in their sunlit home, fought against the insistent pull. "Run! This way!" Sarah took off again, dragging her children behind her, even as Jake staggered, breath hitching with terror. They dashed past spectral figures lurking in the shadows, disembodied hands reaching out, desperate for connection. Screams echoed in the wind, chilling her bones, while bursts of distant laughter danced mockingly around them. It was a sound of decay, a reminder of how hope could be suffocated. Suddenly, they stumbled into a clearing and found themselves faced with a massive wall of darkness, thick as fog but pulsating like a living thing. A sensation engulfed her, a terrible realization crashing down like waves. This wasn't an escape, it was merely an invitation into something worse: the heart of the terror itself. "What is that?" Emily whimpered, clutching Sarah's leg, eyes wide with fear. "I don't know," Sarah breathed, heart hammering painfully in her chest. The shadows danced eagerly around the edge of the clearing, watching, waiting. And just before Sarah turned to flee, she caught a glimpse of their eyes, their pleas woven with longing, as if their very souls were caught. Between this realm and the void beyond, the darkness whispered back, "Why resist? Join us." Sarah. Then a deep breath shuddered through her as the line between hope and despair began to blur. In that moment, the realization struck hard: nothing could prepare her for what lay ahead. This was only the beginning, and the true terror was yet to be revealed: what lay behind the wall. Would they face an end or something even worse? The air grew heavier as Sarah stood frozen, the wall of darkness pulsating in front of them like a beating heart. The whispers intensified, wrapping around her like a thick fog, each syllable a temptation, each promise a pull toward oblivion. "Join us," it teased, you won't be alone anymore. Mommy. Jake reached a shaky hand toward the darkness, his tiny fingers stretching out. The sight of her son wavering on the precipice of yearning and horror made her lungs constrict. Jake, no. Sarah shouted, racing forward to yank his hand back, desperation sending her heart racing. The shadows danced with glee, savoring the chaos, hunger etched into their hollow faces. Why can't I go? He whimpered, confusion blooming behind his eyes, battling with the fear slowly creeping in. I want to be brave. The figure from before stepped closer, the outline sharpening against the dark. Bravery is facing the truth, sweet child. Your mother is the one who doesn't want to stay. Why deny happiness? Terror rattled through Sarah. Jake, don't listen. That's not happiness. The sweet lure of the figure's voice slithered around Sarah's resolve, forcing her to confront the dark afflictions creeping into her mind. The whispers mingled with every doubt she had ever harbored. Was it her fault they had come here? Had they suddenly stepped out of a nightmare only to fall deeper into despair? Emily tugged at Sarah's sleeve. What if it's right, Mommy? What if we're meant to stay? Panic surged within Sarah. We aren't meant to stay. We are not just shadows, don't you see? She pulled her children close, desperately clutching them to her. The weight of the darkness pressed against her mind, its presence thick and suffocating. Let us go back. She turned, searching for a path, any path, but the shadows had woven a curtain around them, blocking the way they had come. She could feel the darkness draw nearer, every heartbeat a countdown, every second a reminder that escape was slipping from her grasp. Suddenly, the rumbling laughter ripped through the air again. Fleeing is futile, Sarah. You need to embrace what is waiting. You are too late. The shadows whispered secrets she didn't want to hear, secrets of a realm where hope could die, where they could stay together forever trapped in an eternity devoid of warmth or light. The invitation to doubt clawed at her, itching under her skin. Mommy, I'm scared. Emily cried as the shadows writhed, closing in tighter. Keep your eyes on me. Sarah's voice was steady now, born from the depths of her desperation. We are a family. Nothing can separate us. In that moment, she felt a flicker of strength, a bright ember fighting back against the dark. She darted forward, pulling her children behind her, pushing through the oppressive weight of despair. The shadows shrieked, their cries a cacophony of anguish as she led the charge into the unknown. Look for the light. She urged, hearts pounding, fear coursing through their veins like ice. And then, just when she thought hope might flicker to life again, they stumbled on an opening, a narrow passage cut into the wall, swirling with faintly glowing edges. Do you see that? Sarah gasped, a new sensation prickling her skin, a promise of escape. But the laughter morphed into a terrifying roar, echoing around them. Leave. You cannot leave. There is nowhere to run. As they dove into the passage, the world around them shattered, the darkness clawing at their heels. Shadows reached out in desperate hands, losing their grip as Sarah led her children through. What awaited them on the other side? She had no choice but to find out, but in her heart, dread lingered that the true horror was yet to be uncovered. Mommy, what if it's worse? Jake whispered, voice trembling. Then we fight it together, she vowed, holding their hands tighter, following the glow that promised escape but could just as easily plunge them deeper into chaos. What lay beyond the swirling light? Would they discover freedom or an even darker nightmare waiting to consume them whole? They burst through the passage, stumbling into an expanse filled with a murky glow. It was different here, oppressive yet oddly serene. The tangible dread that had clawed at their backs faded briefly, but the chill on Sarah's skin warned her not to hope too much. Where are we? Jake's voice quivered in the silence, his eyes scanning the shadowy landscape. Faint outlines of twisted trees, their gnarled branches reaching like skeletal fingers, loomed in the dim light. I don't know, Sarah admitted, fear creeping back in with every heartbeat. The ground beneath their feet felt spongy, like stepping on a rotten sponge beneath a stagnant swamp. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught her eye, a shadow darting behind a tree. Sarah instinctively stepped forward, holding Jake and Emily close. "Stay right here," she instructed, her voice a whisper. "Mommy!" Emily gasped, tugging on her sleeve. "Don't go too far, I have to see what that was," she murmured. Curiosity battled with fear, and the emotions danced in her chest like a violent storm. She glanced back, ensuring her children remained where she left them, and edged deeper into the shadowy expanse. As she moved forward, the whispers started again, weaving in and out of her thoughts, persistent and invasive. Each voice was distinct, filled with longing, despair, promises that felt undeniably real. "Sarah, come closer, find what you are looking for, what do you want?" she shouted back, frustration fueling her courage. The echoes of her voice reverberated strangely as if they were twisting around her. In a moment of stillness, the air turned electric. A figure stepped into the muted glow, a young woman, eyes wide with an impossibly deep sadness. "You've come to seek the truth, come and embrace it," she said, her voice soft and eerily inviting. "What truth?" Sarah felt her heart hammering as the shadowed figure swayed slightly. "What is this place?" "This is where lost souls gather, where you can understand all that you've lost. Join us, find solace," the woman beckoned with a slender hand. Behind her, shadows shifted, forming into more shapes, figures drifting silently, their faces pleading yet twisted with sorrow. "No." Sarah felt the fierceness of her resolve hardening again. "We don't belong in this nightmare." She took a step back, clenching her children's hands tighter. "We want to go home." "Home." The woman's laughter rasped harshly, slicing through the stillness. "You only think you want to go back, but home holds your pain. Here, with us, you can forget pain." Images flooded Sarah's mind, bits of her life, evanescent moments tinged with heartache. How could she protect her children from this torment? "Stay with us." The whispers crescendoed, urging her. Shadows closed in around her, voices overlapping until they merged into a hideous symphony of despair. She saw lost faces, fragments of those who had come before her, each face filled with an echo of her own fears. "Jake, Emily, run!" she shouted, shattering the chaos behind her. But as she turned, she realized in horror that they were gone. Panic surged through her veins, sharp and bitter. "Where are you?" she cried, the words tearing from her throat. They had to be close. Suddenly, a familiar voice broke through the haze. "Mommy." It was small, fragile. Sarah dashed in the direction of the sound, forcing the shadows away. "I'm coming." Her breath quickened, a desperate longing driving her to reach out for her children, but the darkness twisted around her, heavy and relentless. In the distance, another flicker of light appeared, barely perceptible but bright enough to promise safety. The woman's chilling voice trailed behind her, faint yet echoing in her mind. "You will never escape the truth, this is just the beginning." As Sarah stumbled towards the light, heart racing, she knew she had to reach her children before all hope slipped forever into the abyss. But a chilling shadow loomed as she took her last step towards the warmth, whispering, "What if your children are in a different darkness?" What awaited her now? Was the light a salvation or yet another form of manipulation lurking within the darkness? The flickering light expanded as Sarah dashed towards it, desperation propelling her through the dense shadows. "Jake! Emily!" The names spilled from her lips as if they were incantations imbued with power. Each step felt like wading through mud, but she pushed onward, fueled by the conviction that she would find them. The buzzing shadows thrashed nearby, their whispers mingling with her fears. "You're too late," they sang, their voice dulcet yet haunting. "Embrace the truth, it's far easier than fighting." Shadows swirled around her ankles, clawing at her resolve. But she wouldn't stop. "They're my children," she yelled into the void. "You won't take us." The light beckoned, warm and vibrant. She could almost feel the sweet tug of safety, her heart racing like a trapped bird. Then, without warning, the ground trembled beneath her, the shadows seeming to pulse, alive with sinister energy. She could see a figure coalescing from the murky glow ahead. Was it the grotesque man from before? No, this was different. This was a memory. Sarah, the voice was soft, hesitant. It pulled her in, igniting an aching sense of nostalgia. Don't you remember me? It was Mr. Hargrove, his form flickering like the light surrounding them. You can join us, forget your pain. Just behind him, Sarah glimpsed the faint outlines of familiar faces, her children, flickering like ghosts. She lunged forward, heart in her throat. No. You're wrong. In that moment, the pulse of the light surged. Mommy. Jake's sweet, innocent voice cut through her resolve like a knife. They were close. Help us. The flickering grew brighter, engulfing Sarah, and she felt warmth bloom inside her chest. I'm here. She cried, rushing toward their cries. The air thickened, sharp with chaos and ancestral fear, but she pressed on, reaching out for their hands. A surge of brightness erupted as she saw Jake and Emily struggling against a mass of shadow, faces twisted in agony. Mom! They shrieked. The shadows clawed at them greedily, threatening to consume her children whole. Their small bodies warped by fear yanked at Sarah's heart. Let them go, you wretches! Sarah screamed, the scream tearing her throat as she thrust herself between the shadows and her children. She could feel the coldness clawing at her skin, wanting to wrap around her heart like a vice, but she exhaled, drawing strength from every loving moment spent with them. With that surge of defiance, she extended her arms. Light burst from her fingertips, an explosion of hope that brightened the space momentarily and sent the shadows backward, wailing in rage. We are stronger than you. She shouted, determination brimming from the depths of her being. The dark forms recoiled, hissing and yet almost reverent. You cannot contain her, well, she belongs to us, they murmured, but the light spread further, illuminating everything in sight. Let my kids go. Each syllable resonated like a bell tolling, vibrating with truth. Shadows shrieked and scattered, unable to endure the strength of love radiating from her warrior heart. The figures of her children grew clearer as she fought, solidifying against the oppressive backdrop. Mommy! They cried, reaching for her now, free from the tendrils of despair. In that instant, Sarah surged forward, grasping their hands. The warmth filled her with a renewed vigor. They surged together, encircled in light, as vibrant colors cascaded around them. The shadows shuddered and recoiled back into vague shapes, fading as serenity washed over her family. As they stood together, hand in hand, ready to rise, another whisper broke through, unsettling her soul. You can't escape, there are more truths waiting for you elsewhere. No, Sarah whispered, feeling a chill course through her. We fought hard. I won. Surrender to the unknown. Glorious light wrapped around them like a cocoon, leading them through the delicate passageway, pulling them toward freedom. As they moved forward, light engulfed their surroundings, dispelling the memory of despair. Sarah felt the weight lifting, each step onto brighter ground urging her lighter than air. When they finally emerged on the other side, daylight enveloped them. A soft breeze rustled through the leaves, and for the first time in what felt like ages, Sarah breathed easy. The world was still intact, color bursting anew. We did it! She exclaimed, pulling her children to her. Mommy, we were scared. Emily chirped, her eyes wide with wonder but still tinged with fear. I know, sweet girl, Sarah breathed, brushing the damp hair away from her forehead. But we're far away from that darkness now. That part of our story is over. No more nightmares, right? Jake asked, his small face scrunched with concern. Absolutely, Sarah promised, bending down to kiss each cheek. That was a chapter meant to teach us how strong love can be. Nothing will ever come between us again. Together, they walked toward the horizon, the sun bathing them in its warmth, rekindling hope and light. Every step forward felt lighter, every breath free and untethered, and as they turned the last corner, the storm faded into mere echoes behind them, a distant memory woven into their past. Mom. Emily piped up. What happens now? Now. Sarah smiled brightly, her heart swelling with warmth. Now we keep going on our journey, hand in hand. No shadows are strong enough to keep us apart. A bond forged in darkness now refined and glittering in the radiant light ahead. Nothing could stop their love now, and nothing but the horizon awaited. As they walked, hand in hand, the shadows slipped silently into the edges of memory, lingering as a reminder of battles fought and won, but also, the vast world awaited vast and bright, filled with laughter, love, and life once more. Don't forget to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share, because only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.